Liver, joints, mood, detox. Are these things important to you? Stick around to find out what supports them all.
You're listening to Live Foreverish, a show dedicated to helping you live just a little longer. Here's your hosts, Dr. Mike and Dr. Crystal Gossard.
All right, welcome to Live Foreverish. So Dr. Crystal, I said a lot there in that teaser. Did you hear that?
I did.
That's a lot of stuff. Liver, joints, mood, detox. I mean, come on now.
And so much more.
Yeah, and I guarantee you those things are important to 90% of all American adults. And the other 10% just don't know
100%.
I was going to say the other 10% just don't know it yet. And so the teaser was there's something that you could do or we can do to support all of these things. And we are talking about one in particular nutrient today. And Dr. Crystal, it is known as S-adenosyl-methionine, or SAMe for short. I love it. Compound so important to the human body. Why is it? Why are we able to put so many body parts to it, Dr. Crystal?
Well, it's involved in a vital process in the body called methylation. It is the body's primary methyl donor, which means that it's transferring or attaching methyl groups, which are a carbon with 3 hydrogens. So it sounds like, oh, methyls, but it's just a carbon with 3 hydrogens. And when this methyl group is attached to a protein, to DNA or to other molecules, those molecules are kind of transformed. And when we look at when it's attached or transferred to DNA, it acts like a switch on your DNA, and it usually silences the expression of a gene or turns that gene off. And it's also involved in when these methyl groups are attached to neurotransmitters, it's activating those neurotransmitters. And so you see this methylation process involved in many biochemical processes in the cell. And SAMe is intricately involved in that process, in that attachment process.
Yeah. I mean, in a sense, it's a regulator, it's a signaling molecule. I mean, it's all these things that and when you start attaching words like that to a compound, regulator, signaling, that's an important compound at the end of the day, because it's how it's compounds like SAMe that help the body regulate itself, communicate, turn things on and off, which is obviously very critical. That whole methylation process is is it fair to say, because we're going to go over a lot of the specific benefits, right, from SAMe, but I just want people to keep in mind that idea of methylation, those methyl groups, and how SAMe is a methyl donor. And that's kind of its overarching thing that it's doing that then results in a lot of these specific health benefits.
Yeah, that methylation process is one of the most important processes that SAMe is involved in. And so, yes, it's important. We do know that we're not, as we get older, we're not making as much SAMe as we used to. That could be due to a number of factors. Maybe we're not meeting our protein requirements, because SAMe is a byproduct. So some people call it an amino acid. I think that's fair, but it's a breakdown of methionine, which is an amino acid. And so we're finding that in our older years, we just don't have as much of this important compound available, or this important molecule available.
It's so sad. As you age, everything goes down, Dr. Crystal, everything. Hormones down, SAMe's down, antioxidants are down, everything's down, which is why we want to do things to replenish it, right? We want to get it back up, because by introducing SAMe into your daily regimen, and that's kind of our goal for our listeners is to really think about SAMe as part of a daily regimen.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I mean, you want SAMe, you want it at high levels, you want to be able to do methylation correctly and see some of these benefits. So let's get into some of these specific benefits. First one right off the bat, I love, right? Because this is a process that's so important in the body. And if it's not regulated correctly and goes chronic, can cause a lot of problems. So SAMe, number one, supports a healthy inflammatory response. What is it exactly doing?
Yeah, it's in vitro data. We are seeing that it lowered the expression of a pro-inflammatory mediator, TNF alpha. It's a mediator that is it's a powerful signaling messenger that's saying inflame, 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 becoming, it's a part of that inflammation process that that leads to joint inflammation and overall whole body inflammation. And so SAMe lowered the expression of that, which is supporting a healthy inflammatory response, as well as increasing an anti-inflammatory messenger known as IL-6. So it's balancing out this inflammatory response. So it's not so one-sided.
Yep.
Inflammation is not bad. Chronic inflammation, therefore,
There's
although
yeah,
is not what we want.
yeah,
And so you need to have a balance with your inflammatory response.
yeah. I'm glad you said that. That inflammation is not a bad thing. It's necessary for life. It's just that the inflammatory response is powerful, and if it's not controlled and goes chronic, it can cause damage at the end of the day, right? So SAMe is one of those regulators of a healthy inflammatory response. The second one to me is just as important. This is along with inflammation, this next benefit is really some of the earliest theories of why we age in general. And this one is supporting antioxidant defense, meaning bringing down oxidative stress. And SAMe ultimately does this by converting down the line into glutathione. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I think you've kind of covered it
Did I
all.
just covered
Just
it?
featuring, highlighting that oxidative stress is the buildup of free radical damage over time. Understanding that those free radicals, that free radicals are produced by breathing, the process of metabolizing the
Life.
foods that we eat into energy. Free radicals, we're exposed to those free radicals from pollution, from sun exposure. And so it's all about making sure that we kind of keep those free radicals under control so that we don't develop oxidative stress, where those free radicals are building up and damaging the body. So yes, supporting antioxidants and that master regulator of free radicals, which is glutathione, is important.
I think too, today it's even more important to educate people about oxidative stress and the need for antioxidants because, as you said, not only do our bodies create free radicals just because of metabolism living, right? But we also live in an environment that's a lot different than humans have lived in the past. So we also have a lot of oxidative compounds coming from our environment, from cleaning stuff to the pollution in the water, all of that. So it's like we're bombarded today, right? And so something like SAMe supporting glutathione, supporting antioxidant defense is incredibly important. Let's move on then to a more kind of like specific body part, because remember I started with body parts, right? So let's start with the joints. And it turns out SAMe's pretty good here, Dr. Crystal.
We are seeing SAMe even in research compared to NSAID drugs, what we typically grab at the local drugstore, or I'm sure we have it in our pantries, our medicine cabinet, but the NSAIDs, whatever type you choose to use, ibuprofen, your Motrin,
All of that.
Advil. I'm
All of
just
that.
going to name them. We take them all. But there's research comparing SAMe and showing that SAMe was as effective as NSAIDs in pain relief in individuals with osteoarthritis. And that's not just one study. We do have a clinical trial to feature, but this is what I'm referencing is a meta-analysis where it's improving functional limitation without those adverse effects of NSAIDs.
Yeah. And this is important because, NSAIDs, if taken correctly, they're really meant to be taken on occasional pain, fever, that kind of stuff. But more and more people are taking them long-term, chronically, especially for joint relief. And we're starting to see problems, not just with the classic, NSAIDs have been far known to be bad for the kidneys, bad for the gut, but new research is coming out. It turns out certain NSAIDs might be huge risk factors for heart arrhythmias and AFib. And so, again, seeing a natural compound be just as effective, man, start with the natural thing. See how that works for you, right? And if not, maybe you add a little bit of NSAIDs. And that's where integrative medicine, natural medicine, I think really shines.
I agree. And then we also have a clinical trial that where 30 participants received 600 milligrams twice daily. So that's 1,200 milligrams of SAMe. And 31 of those participants received 100 milligrams of an NSAID. And they found, and this is for 8 weeks. And then there was a second phase where the treatments were switched, and SAMe had, although a slower onset of action, it was equally effective.
It's just awesome to see, right?
And that was knee arthritis.
It was knee arthritis. And that's really great to see that it's just as effective. May take a little longer. Natural things do, Dr. Crystal. They're not hitting your body as hard as a conventional drug at the end of the day, which is why I believe we've talked about this before. It's part of the side effect profile of conventional drugs. When you hit so hard, the body has an opposite reaction of side effects hard, but when you take your time with the nutrient and let the nutrient do its job slowly, I just think that's better overall.
Well, we also see that a lot of times the medications, they are so targeted in their action that they can, some of them, especially the powerful NSAIDs, like those COX-1 inhibitors, they shut down pathways.
Yeah, they're not being easy. I mean, they're powerful, right? They're roadblocks.
They are. I like that phrase. They are roadblocks, and it's just like a piping system. You shut down one pipe, the water's going to go the other way. And sometimes if you're sending water rushing in a different direction, that's not so good. And you see the same thing with these kind of pathways in the body.
Yeah. So there you go. SAMe doing just as good as NSAIDs for our osteoarthritis. Moving into mood disorders and major depression. It's really nice to see what I think is pretty much a conservative, conventional group, the American Psychiatric Association Council on Research. They looked at SAMe, and we'll go through it, but at the end of the day, they concluded SAMe could easily be a part of a depression protocol for people.
Yes, we do see that. And when we look at what SAMe's doing as a methyl donor, transferring those methyl groups, we're seeing SAMe enhancing methylation of catecholamines. You're seeing reuptake of norepinephrine. We're seeing enhanced dopamine activity. And so you do see that the SAMe is having an impact in many ways with these brain chemicals that control mood.
Yeah. So this group, they looked at, the first thing they did is they had two major reviews, right? So the first review, I guess they looked at 115 clinical trials, about 17 preclinical studies, preclinical being laboratory work, animal stuff like that, right? And they evaluated SAMe for treatment of certain psychiatric conditions, certain medical conditions, and concluded that SAMe holds a lot of promise for major depression, at least in certain neurocognitive disorders. I mean, this is coming from a conservative group who is supporting the use of a very safe and effective compound called SAMe.
Yes, and then there is also another systematic review published in 2020 looking at SAMe and major depressive disorders. And it included 8 randomized trials that enrolled over 1,000 participants, evaluated the effect of SAMe either used alone or in conjunction with other therapies. In this study, duration ranged between 2 and 12 weeks. And the researchers concluded generally positive results for SAMe used by itself or as an add-on to other antidepressants. So I know that's a question that comes up when you start looking at these natural add-ins. Well, I'm already taking a medication. Can I add this in? And so we do see research showing a positive combination between the two.
Love it. Yeah, Dr. Crystal, this is really important to me because we know that one antidepressant for one person, there's a lot of people who need a little bit more. That one antidepressant, even though they can be powerful, often is not enough to totally clear the depression. And so you see commercials, pharmaceutical companies making add-ins, which are their drugs. Hey, take this drug with your antidepressant and get a better effect. Well, here you got a natural way to do it, right? If you're somebody who is on an antidepressant, you're better, but it's not great. Your doctor's thinking about adding another pharmaceutical. Maybe talk to your doctor about SAMe. See what they think. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's integrative medicine.
That's right.
All right, let's move on. Now, I did want to ask a question. So we see it in some neurocognitive disorders working well in depression, but we don't have a lot of support for anxiety. Isn't that correct for SAMe?
Yes, it doesn't appear to be the subject of published studies. We're primarily seeing as far as mood is related, depression being the focus.
So let's move it then. I started this whole thing in that teaser with liver. That's a big one, Dr. Crystal. You can't. I mean, your liver is a workhorse in the human body. It does so much. So you got to have a healthy liver. It's so important for living forever-ish. And let's talk about SAMe in the liver. We mentioned its role in the methylation process. It turns out the liver is a huge methylation, what is the word? Chemistry factory, right? I don't know if that's the right.
I like that. I like it.
Yeah.
It's where most methylation reactions take place. And we know if SAMe is there. So we also see SAMe as sort of a control switch that regulates liver function. And so, yes, we do see clinical trials with SAMe and individuals with alcohol use disorder. And those who took SAMe fared better.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are seeing that it supports liver health.
Yeah, that trial you were talking about, there was a specific trial, randomized, double blind, all that kind of good stuff of people with alcoholic cirrhosis. And now you have to understand when you're at a level of cirrhosis, whether it's from alcohol or anything, doesn't matter. I mean, cirrhosis is end stage liver disease. There's really transplant is the treatment at that point. And that's why a lot of people are on, waiting lists for liver transplant because they have cirrhosis. So it's not good. It's terminal. But they did do a study in these patients, and half of them, I think there were, let me see here, 123 patients. So half went on 1,200 milligrams a day of SAMe, and half got a placebo. And I think they watched them for 2 years, right? Because when you have liver cirrhosis, it's a slow process down to
Right.
failure. Yeah, people can live a long time with cirrhosis, which shows you how resilient the liver is, right? To be honest with you.
Yes.
But at the end of 2 years, those taking the SAMI, only 12% died or had to go on to a transplant versus 29% with placebo. That's significant. You're saving a lot of lives.
You are. You're just seeing at the condition in some kind of being stabilized.
Yeah.
Which is what you want.
Listen, if you could stabilize somebody in cirrhosis, they can live with that level of function, which they can. Oh, great. Or at least it gives them more time as they're waiting for a transplant as well.
That part.
I think that's the key part is somebody who's, they have 2 years at the most. Well, now maybe they have 4 or 5 years waiting for that perfect liver for them. All right. So that's SAMI and liver, joint, mood, great stuff, methylation, inflammation. People often ask, Dr. Chris, we like to keep a ear. What how do you say
ear to the ground?
Ear to the ground. Yeah. We give an ear to the ground on Google and all those social channels. What are people asking? And a common question that we keep seeing pop up is, how long does it take for SAMI to work? And I'll let you speak into this too, but I think it's hard to answer that because it depends on why maybe you're taking it, liver, joint, what have you.
I agree. That's one of those questions where you just kind of have to look at the studies. We have some amazing health protocols at Life Extension, and you can see, okay, for this condition, this is the dose that was used. This was the study duration, and you want to generally follow that study duration. So we kind of gave some examples with when we look at that systematic review for mood and major depressive disorder, the study duration with those 8 randomized trials ranged between 2 and 12 weeks.
Okay.
But you see with inflammation, for example, with the knee osteoarthritis, that study duration, it was an 8-week study. So you kind of have to dive a little bit deeper to find kind of that perfect duration for you, but it's not something that you want to take it and give it some time. That's just usually my suggestion.
With nutrients, for sure. Give them some time to work. Maybe they take a little longer, but there's less side effects. They often are affecting multiple things in a positive way, not just real targeted like the drug. So give it a shot. And listen, SAMI is something, even when your knee feels better, you can continue to take it. We all need a healthy liver. We all want a healthy mood. I mean, you don't have to stay. It's not like there's a treatment window and that's it, because it's a natural supplement that's good for you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Anything? Another question that we get online is when can I take SAMI, or how do I? Is it morning? Is it evening? That kind of stuff, with food, without food.
Yeah, so no set time period, best consumed in divided doses. You do want to look for an option that is enterically coated. There could be mild GI upset if not. So that's something you want to look at with your SAMI formulas. You also want to make sure you're taking it with B vitamins. So you can do a B complex, but specifically B6, B12, folic acid, because SAMe, once it donates its methyl group, it turns into homocysteine.
Right.
And that homocysteine, you don't want it to stick around as homocysteine because that can be damaging to blood vessels. It's a cardiac risk factor. So you need that homocysteine to continue to be metabolized. And I don't want to say detoxed from the body, but you want that homocysteine to convert into to the next conversion chemical.
It's a cycle. You want the cycle to be healthy, right? You don't want any one thing to build. Cycles are supposed to move. And so it's the B vitamins that are helping homocysteine can continue on in that cycle. So you have healthy methylation at the end of the
That's
day.
right.
Yeah. Supplements that should not be taken with SAMe. Some people say if you're on, other antidepressants, whatever, be careful because they're raising serotonin levels. However, there's research and a council that says they probably could be used together. L-tryptophan, St. John wort, these things also raise serotonin. So you just got to be careful and talk to your doctor.
You should be careful if you are dealing with bipolar disorder. SAMe is contraindicated because it's very difficult to manage. It can be difficult to manage bipolar disorder, and we would not want to someone to experience a manic episode because SAMe is changing the dopamine and it's changing the levels of those neurotransmitters. So we do see that because we see how it's impacting neurotransmitter levels. You need to be mindful of that.
Fantastic information about an important compound, a methyl donor. Running that methylation reaction in the body. It's a signaling molecule. It's a regulator, and it's called SAMe. It might be something you want to look into to add into your daily regimen. And we're going to send you to lifeextension.com/education. If you check out that site, so many other things. There's stuff about SAMe there, but all kinds of. There's a blog. There's our live shows. There's these health quizzes. It's all on this one page. So go check out lifeextension.com/education. And when you're there, because Life Extension, our sponsor, wants to say thank you, shop around, check out, and then use the discount code podcast, and you'll get 10% off $50 or more, plus free shipping and handling. That's podcast. Put that right in the discount code. And don't forget, at liveforeverish.com, tons and tons and tons and tons of other episodes you can download, like, and share. And wherever you listen to podcasts, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss a show. You can check all of that out at liveforeverish.com. I'm Dr. Mike, and that is
Dr. Crystal.
Thanks for listening.